confused, but they have done a great job, Pat and Shane and CWLP, everybody coming together and having a better option for our community. So that's
South Sangamon Water Commission issued a boil order last night around 6:30. The village went out and shut off our valve on the frontage road on I-55, so that kept us from having to create a boil order for us. We had water in our ground storage tank and water in our above ground tank, but there wasn't enough to probably make it through the whole day. We sent out an e-alert earlier in the day asking for people to conserve because we wanted to make it past school getting out so that they didn't have to turn around and do bottled water and mess with the kitchen. Wanted to try to get close through the lunch period for the restaurants and stuff in town. We started early in the day working with CWLP, Ted Meckes, to come up with an agreement so that we could purchase some water from them. Shane and Ted worked all day long, got an agreement together. The mayor of both cities talked, Trustee Boyle talked to the mayor of the city of Springfield, and we pulled together a plan. We got it signed about 4:15. We turned the valve on and we got water on Route 4 feeding into our system. We essentially paid about the same price as what we would if we were buying the water from the South Sangamon Water Commission. And it wouldn't hurt if we still tried to conserve water for the rest of today, but once the water boil order gets lifted by the South Sangamon Water Commission, we'll open up the spigot there and fill up our ground storage tank, and it should be back to normal. Kudos to Shane Hill and Ted Meckes today.
I think we now need to call order of both boards. You guys do a roll call on your end.
Call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Sander?
Present.
Mr. Hall?
Yes. Trustee Scarman? Here. Trustee Mao? Here. Trustee Boyle? Here. Lindhorst?
here.
Kimsey? Here. We want to stand and say the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is to select a meeting chair. I don't know if somebody wants to volunteer to help moderate the meeting tonight.
You're doing a good job.
Sounds like a motion.
Yes.
I mean, I'd be willing to speak on behalf of the village of Chatham. Everybody all right with Trustee Boyle kind of serving as moderator? All right. Trustee Boyle, we'll turn things over to you.
Okay. You know, the reason that we called this meeting, obviously, from the village's standpoint, reached out to the South Sangamon Water Commission, was essentially to continue to try and open up the lines of communication between both of the entities. You know, I think that it's important, you know, for us to realize and for the citizens that, you know, there have been a lot of issues, you know, on behalf of the citizens in the community with water quality, water rates, and even the sustainability of the South Sangamon Water Commission and the water plant moving forward. I know that there are a lot of fairly new board members that are on the board now that weren't there initially when the water plant was in its development stage, and even to the point where water was turned on from the South Sangamon Water Commission to the village. And so, you know, there's just a lot of, I would say, knowledge beforehand that I think a lot of people on the board, including myself and some of the other trustees, have questions on. And I think, you know, looking forward, there's a lot of questions as to what is gonna happen with the water quality, what is gonna happen, in terms of the rate structures, and what is the sustainability of this plant, moving forward, for the village. You know, I said it last night, I think it's important that the conversation tonight, whether it's conversation or questions and answers between the village of Chatham and the commission and even the citizens and everybody who's here tonight, I hope that conversation is fruitful. Obviously, as we are aware, we're at a point to where, you know, we can't go back at this point. But what we can do is we can build on the relationship with the commission to bring that relationship closer, and working with the village of Chatham to try and give the consumers the best possible water rates along with the best possible quality of water that the plant can provide. Let the commission reserve kind of the background about the commission and their makeup. You know, there's a lot of confusion a lot of times, in terms, the water plant under the commission form of government technically is not the village of Chatham. They are their own separate entity. So, it's kind of a unique system to where, you know, we do have an appointment, of a commissioner onto the water commission. Also, New Berlin, the village of New Berlin has an appointment, and then an appointment from, Sangamon County. So, it really is two separate entities, but we do have to work as one because we obviously as a community are the ones that are invested in it. So, you know, I hope tonight, I wanna thank everybody for coming out, and I know that, you know, this has been going on for some time now, and there's been a lot of concerns and, just a lot of questions that have been left, I think, unanswered to my citizens in my village, and hopefully we can resolve that. And, you know, the one thing that I wanna make sure that happens before we move on to anything else is that we set a future date to meet again with the commission, before we leave this room tonight, because I've seen too many times in this village, before where, you know, we come with a plan of action or discussions are taken, and then they kind of fall by the wayside. And, you know, I think it's important that, you know, before we leave here tonight, we have a date and we have some sort of action to move on going forward, because we do owe it to, from a standpoint as a resident and a trustee for the village of Chatham, we do owe it to our citizens and our people, to give you guys, like I said, the best quality product that we can have for the best rate. So, with that said, I don't know if the commission has anything that they want to start with.
Thanks, Trustee Boyle. For you who don't know, my name is Terry Burke, and I'm chairman of the South Sangamon Water Commission. I am Chatham's representative. I've been on the commission since February of this year. Next to me is Joe Sanders. He is New Berlin's representative. He's been on the commission 2 years. 2 years. Craig Hall is next to him. He's the county board representative, and he is from the Loami area, and he represents the county board. And next to him is Randy Sagata. He is our legal counsel for the commission. And Laura Van Grillen is sitting here taking notes. She is our clerk and bookkeeper for the commission. The commission started back in talks in 2005, 2007. Legislation was passed saying if two communities form a water commission, they can use the county highways right away without permits. And that was a big savings, I understand, to the water commission. So New Berlin at that time was was under EPA oversight to find a water source. So Chatham and New Berlin joined forces. Rochester had been part of the talks early on, and they withdrew. So New Berlin stepped up, and the commission was formed. I believe 2009, I believe is when the commission was formed. Construction of the plant started sometime in 2010, and in May of 2012, we started serving water. That's a quick oversight of the commission. When I was asked to serve, there's two things I wanted to get: water quality, the best that this plant can produce, and financially stable. That we have a basis so that the plant or the commission will survive and be here for 50+ years. Either one of you have anything? I think that's it, Trustee Boyle.
We were gonna wait for have public comment at the end on the agenda. We were first gonna start with having a discussion between the commission and the trustees. Yeah, I don't know if the commission has something they wanna, if you guys wanna report on kind of current status of operations, or if the board wants to, raise some specific issues that we've seen in the village. Either way, I'm not sure whichever is the pleasure.
Trustee Boyle, if you don't mind, I did not introduce Woodard and Kern, and I apologize for that. Back in May 1st, the commission hired Woodard and Kern, a management company, to oversee the day-by-day operations of the plant. And they're out of St. Charles, Missouri, and they're roughly 850 employees strong and do about 50 water plants and sewer plants around the East Coast and Midwest. The commission selected Woodard. Mark Thomas is the area manager that we deal with, and I'll let him explain this diagram that's behind me, and that may help answer some questions of just how the plant operates, and may answer some of the questions that the trustees may have. Mark?
Again, Mark Thomas, area manager for Woodard and Kern. As Terry indicated, we did come online May 1 to assume operations responsibility for the commission. So we're going on 4 months, 5 months after the selection. So again, our charge right now is contract operators for the commission, safety compliance, and I know we had a meeting, I believe, back in August that we came to the village of Chatham to introduce ourselves. So, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. But as we stated, safety, compliance, those are our number 1 and number 2 priorities as a company. We will not sacrifice money or other components to make sure we deliver on compliance. Safety first and compliance second. So, coming out of the box, our main focus has been the implementation of operations, computerized operations programs to help us better manage data, make sure that we're getting that to the commission, the regulatory agencies, as well as the public as time has gone. We've had an open door policy. Hopefully those that have attended the monthly reports have seen that. So, again, we've implemented the operations management system. Part of the safety protocol was to do an audit right off the bat. Brought in some of our safety experts, again, to walk through the system, make sure that we identified everything, minor items to some of the more major items. And so today, I believe we're about 60-70% complete on the safety the audit performed. The other component is the maintenance management system, again, protecting the commission's assets for the long-term life cycle costs. Again, the better we maintain it, the lower the maintenance repair costs for the commission. So, safety, compliance, maintenance, those have been some of the key focuses for us coming in. The previous manager of the system, Dan Held, he did come over. Fortunately for us, as part of our team, so Dan came over, and then we hired shortly thereafter a second operator to help with the day-to-day maintenance and operations activities. So we're fairly active in trying to make sure that we implement systems for consistency, compliance, safety. May 1st again, with the start that was mentioned today about a boil order that was issued. This is the second one under our watch. I will say that it did not have to do with water quality, it had to do with the pressure. The one that happened last night, our SCADA system basically shut down, and 6 minutes later, the pressure had dropped below the acceptable limit. So at that point, we're automatically forced to issue a boil order, even though the system was back up and running previous time within a 10-15 minute time frame. This one took us a little bit more time to work through, but was online shortly after the system went down. So, that being said, we can address more questions later. I know one of the items we were asked to address tonight is to give I apologize if it's not higher up, but to give a schematic of the plant and basically walk through the treatment process. So, this one I'll introduce Dan Held, and Dan is the licensed operator through the state of Illinois, and he is responsible for day-to-day activities. So, Dan will explain.
Okay.
Do you guys think this okay if, should we move?
It'd be easier if we do. Depends on what's on the hot.
Anybody's in the house that knows how to raise the
A couple things first, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Dan Held. I started at the plant, I was there the day that the plant went online. I've been there ever since when Woodard & Curran took over. They were nice enough to ask me to stay on, and I agreed to do that. And to kind of tag on to what Pat mentioned earlier, I expect results back from the lab about 8:30 in the morning on boil order, so we should know something about that time. Okay. Also, one other thing I want to echo along with the folks from Chatham here is that Shane and Dustin, I work very close with those guys, terrific guys to work for, so you guys are lucky to have those guys working in your area. Okay? I've been asked to kind of give a water plant 101, how it operates here. And so we put this schematic or this overview here together, and it looks much like the SCADA system at the plant. If you start in the top left-hand corner there, you'll see a gray box that has 10 wells on there. Okay, those wells were all designed to pump about 250 gallons a minute, and it pumps from the well field that is north of the plant up to a 20-inch line, comes in, goes through a master meter, and goes through the aerator. Now, the purpose of the aerator is to take iron and manganese, which can come in liquid or solid form, and convert that to a solid form. Okay, so it leaves the aerator and it goes into the aeration detention tank. Just prior to going into the tank, you'll see that we dose it with sodium hypochlorite there, the little yellow box. Okay, that also is an oxidant to try and convert anything that's in a soluble form to an insoluble form. Okay, it goes through the detention tank and comes into the filters. The ultra filters have really, really small pores on them. In fact, they'll actually take out viruses and stuff because the holes are so small in them. And that's where any iron and manganese that's in a solid form, the filters will pick that up and it'll filter that. If you kind of picture this sort of a coffee filter, anything that's a liquid will pass through it. Anything that's a solid, the filters will take out. Okay? Just prior to the filtration, you'll see we feed sodium bisulfite there. The membranes are made of a material that the chlorine would be harmful to them. So we feed the sodium bisulfite to kill the chlorine prior to the membranes. Okay, so it goes through the filters. After it goes through the filters, it goes up this, well, I guess I could get up there, huh? Okay. It'll leave here, and it'll go through, it'll go over here to the ion exchange softening system, okay? Now you'll note on here that we have the line that tees, okay? The water that goes through the ion exchange softeners will be softened to 0, okay? So in order to achieve the 120 milligrams per liter hardness that's desired in Chatham, a portion of that water is bypassed. The hardness of the water at the plant is around 360 or so, something like that. So when you blend about 33% of your water at 360 degrees, or 360 milligrams per liter hardness with 0 hardness here, when you get to the other side, that comes out to about 101, okay? So the water leaves here, goes to the clear well, and then from the clear well, when the pumps call for water in Chatham, the high service pumps out at the plant will come on, and just as that water gets ready to leave the plant, we'll put hypochlorite in it, which we were using as an oxidant here, okay? But it's also a disinfectant. So we feed that, we feed fluoride, and we feed polyphosphate for corrosion control, okay? So some of the other things that you see on this chart, like this stuff down here, those are sort of satellite systems to this overall treatment thing. These are for cleaning of the membranes. When enough water's passed through them that they need it clean in place, I'll take a bank out of service, and then these chemicals will be used to clean that bank, and once it's done, it backwashes it like 3 times, and then it goes back into service, okay? These brine pumps, once enough water is passed through these ion exchange units, and if you sort of picture the ion exchange units, it's sort of like it's filled full of golf balls, that as the water passes through it, the hardness will attach to the golf ball, and when the golf ball's got enough hardness on it that it won't hardly, anything else will fit on it, then that'll go into a regeneration. It'll pump this brine solution through it, it'll remove the hardness, flush that out to waste, okay, and then when that's done, it'll put it back into service. Okay. Now, a portion of this waste goes out to a high chloride tank, really concentrated salt water, almost like what they spray on the roads for ice in the winter. That can't be discharged to a stream. So we have an outfit by the name of Cat Express that comes out and they haul the high chloride waste out to the water tower out here in Chatham, and they dump it out there. So any of you folks that live around that area, you may see his truck going by there all the time. He gets out the plant about 5:30 in the morning, something like that. Generally, he's done hauling by about 11.
It goes into the sanitary sewer.
Yeah, it goes into the sanitary sewer.
They don't dump it on the ground.
And
it's been okayed by the sanitary district to dump it.
Right, okay. The sanitary district monitors what the strength of the chloride is that we're hauling over to that area. The water that goes out to the streams, that's monitored by Illinois EPA. We pull samples once a week and we send that in, EPA, to make sure that we stay within the permit limits, okay? And some of these other things like the backwash pumps, they backwash the membranes, filters over here. The air compressors, the plant, a lot of the valves and stuff in the plant are ran by air. So these air compressors are on here. And then you'll see when the water leaves the ground storage reservoir out here, it goes to Chatham's elevated tower and eventually over to New Berlin. That process takes about a week. So water that leaves the plant, say tomorrow, won't really get to New Berlin until next Thursday. Okay? Couple comments though, okay? When we first started up, when the plant first started up, we went online, we had a few problems with chlorine and some of those other things, okay? Some of the pumps at the plant were oversized, and we had a hard time feeding ammonia and the chlorine and not getting over the breakpoint chlorine, and I don't want to get too technical with all that. But basically, we switched pumps, got a more properly sized pump, and so that eliminated some of those problems. So we've been in touch. I guess I've been in tune with what you guys are telling me about the water quality and what's going on. I hear you. I've been there since day one. I hit the button when we first went online. So I hope that we can continue, just like we did with the Pledge of Allegiance, where we all stood up and worked together and said that we can do the same as we move forward here. Any questions on how the process works? Yes, sir.
What's a typical day for you in your position? What's it like?
Well, It's funny you should mention that, because yesterday I got to the plant about 6:30, and then we had the boil order, and so I was there all night last night. I was there during the day today, and when the meeting gets home tonight, hopefully I'm not locked out when I get home. But typically, I'll get there somewhere between the 6:30 to 8 o'clock range, somewhere around in that area. And generally, for water plant operators, it has a lot more to do with what's going on that day. If we have a pump or something that's having a problem, and we need somebody to come out and look at it, they can't get there till 3:30, then I stay. Okay? So my hours can jump around a little bit, but one thing that is pretty consistent about it is I get there somewhere between 6:30 and 8.
Staffing the plant is 7 days a week on average, Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day, weekends, anywhere from half day to the whole day.
How is it that the harvest desire to be delivered to Chatham is at 160, but when it's been measured at my home, it's 3 to 4 times that? How does that happen?
Well, that's a water quality issue, we're gonna get into that after I get done here, okay, but, we have some theories on that. Yes, ma'am?
So if I heard you correctly, you said that you've been on since day one, and you said, I hear you with quality. Are you acknowledging that we do have a water quality issue?
What I'm acknowledging is that nobody in this room wants the water quality to be good for you guys more than me, okay? I stayed there countless hours, and I do my very, very best to use the equipment that the plant has to get you guys the best water I can. Okay? Yes, sir.
That yellow box there, that filter,
Here?
well, you said the filter catches the manganese, it becomes
Yeah, that's right.
some liquid. When it goes to liquid, does there become a solid, and is it caught anywhere else? You said that filter catches the solids, but some liquid goes through there.
Right.
Does that become a solid then later down the line? That's in my toilet now?
Yeah.
The manganese, and again, we can get into the water quality data.
That's a good time.
By permit, we have a 0.05 milligram per liter manganese concentration that's required to be met by IEPA secondary standards. The plant has consistently produced that or below those levels for manganese concentrations leaving the plant. Again, I understand you might have a different quality standard that you might be looking for, but as far as secondary standards, the plant is consistently, and we've got the data, we share it monthly as part of the monthly report to the commission. We have to report it to IEPA, but this plant does consistently produce those manganese.
I've lived in Chatham for over 30 years. 6 years ago, I didn't have this problem.
So what are the standards in Springfield
Yeah.
compared to, you say that the plant is producing to the standards, but what were the standards that we were being delivered as citizens prior to converting over to this?
Their permit limit would be essentially the same, so their standards are essentially the same.
So they produce.
Now, what their water quality is compared to South Sangamon's, I can't answer that.
Mark, can you just, I know you're hitting on that, but I mean, we kicked off this 3 years ago, and you guys have been hired in the last 6 months. I think a big thing that needs to be addressed is, how do you feel like we can get there with you guys on board now? What have you already noticed and trying to improve with the water? And lastly, what's a projection that we can see it? I know some people said they've seen improvement, but obviously we want more. We expect a higher quality, and I think you know that, I'm assuming, yes. But we wanna know, what's your projection to get there?
I guess when you say, projection to get there, understanding what it is that's desired to be met, I think that's helpful for the commission, for the village of Chatham to understand. Water quality complaints, again, there's a nature of complaints that come in and that are dealt with, whether it's the distribution system or at the plant that we receive. Whether it's corrosion, solids build up in the tanks, discolorization. Again, understanding the nature, how widespread those complaints are, or in some cases isolated they are, help us as a team manage those complaints. So again, you have complaints as far as water quality, some isolated, some might be ongoing, but periodic. Understanding the nature of the distribution system. Are there dead spots? Are there areas of low flow? Were there main breaks in a certain week that dropped pressure, allowed solids to enter the system? Did we have an upset in the plant that might have related to that? Again, those are all things that can impact water quality. But as far as a game plan and understanding what the commission that we work for, but ultimately the users want, we're trying to understand that. There's a lot of complaints that come in, the dust and fields, we do see some of them. We've had people come in with flapper valves that look like a blowtorch we're taking to them. Again, people are saying the water quality is causing the flapper valve to erode away. It looked like it was basically melted. In some cases, chlorine tablets in the back of the toilet can cause those problems. As an example.
You know, this kind my husband was in the military, and he was out on maneuvers, and they shot some artillery, and it happened to hit a barn and blew it to smithereens with two of the farmer's favorite cows. When they had the investigation, they asked the commander in charge what happened. He said he couldn't tell them because it looked good from where they were. Well, that's kind of how I equate this. The water looks good from the water plant. But when it gets to my house, there's white stuff, there's black stuff, there's mold, so, and it stinks. You know, I can't drink it. I don't drink it. What do we do as a community? What do we do?
Dan, I think you need to re-answer this lady's question. She needs to ask again and maybe let's just straight over. Okay, can you ask the question again, please?
I've got so much going through my head, to be perfectly honest. My question is, I have a bottle of water that came out of the washing machine. And I just would like you to smell it and tell me how exactly this is considered safe to drink, to bathe our children in, to bathe ourselves in, to cook with, because this came out of the washing machine. I'd just like you to smell it. No, I really would like you to smell it.
And we got to smell
This is the water that came out of the fridge, and I would like you to smell it.
No, I understand water came out of the fridge.
It actually is the water that came into the washing machine in a
Came
home,
out of our fridge.
in a brand new home that has not even existed for a year.
That's
So,
how the water came out of our fridge.
Chairman, on hand, sir, I'd like to, sir, can I please say something first?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, sir,
here, let's pass it down, just so you guys can all. Oh, wait, no.
okay, you know, you've all been in a lot of good meetings, and I want to keep this meeting here tonight a good meeting, and so, yeah, I understand that people want to bring things up, but, you know, and I appreciate you, I really do think it's smell. But, you know, here's my point is, right, we need to keep this meeting kind of organized, because if not, it's gonna turn into things that we are not. So let's just try to keep things organized. Yeah, I agree. You know what?
And there'll be
Yeah,
an
but
opportunity for
the moderators to moderate, yeah.
Thank you, Craig, thank you. There's gonna be time for questions and answers. I know right now in this part of the meeting, you know, there's some conversation, I think, questions that board members have that, you know, they would like to ask our commission, some conversation, and, I mean, one of the things that in talking about, and it's along the same lines of the manganese, the filtration system, you guys have been doing, our piloting green sand filter testing recently at the plant, correct? Is that, and I'm directing that down to the water commission.
Yes, you have.
Okay, and at some point during the recommendation before the plant was in the developmental phase or whatever you want to call it, one of the engineering firms, did they not recommend to put in a green sand filter as a filtration system.
I
These,
have no clue, trustee Boyle. We weren't there in the design, so.
You have two members that were there,
No.
Craig Hall and Dan Hill.
Craig Dan wasn't there.
Craig was.
But
Yes, it was there.
And here's my thing, okay, and I'm just saying that was, this is all part of the history part, just to get a background, okay? I'm a little cautious too already, because the attorney's already said, we're gonna get up and walk out, and we're hesitant to do this, so you make me a little cautious to move forward, in your guys' true intent on being here. But, you're doing the green sand filtering. Last year in December, the water commissioner that was appointed by the village of Chatham, by the mayor, said that in 1 year, which was December, we would have a green sand filtration system in place to deal with the quality issues, the manganese, things of that nature. We're into November, and I guess what I wanna know is, where are we at in terms of moving forward with the green sand filtration system and possibly an additional settling tank? And if it's not gonna be in December, when can we expect something of that nature to improve the filtration system, since it was recommended in some of the initial developmental stages?
In the design of the plant, trustee Boyle mentioned the green sand filter had been mentioned. EPA labeled this plant as under the influence of surface water. That's not groundwater. We are using groundwater, but EPA, and they still to this day, state that we are under the influence of surface water. Green sand filters doesn't do anything for bacteria. Dan had mentioned that the fibers, the openings on the filter catches viruses and bacteria and stuff. Green sand filter doesn't do that. So since we were under the influence of surface water, EPA said we had to use a membrane system.
So Mark, you're saying that we don't need a green sand?
Well, they said
Sand filter?
for under the surface, under the influence of surface water, we had to have a membrane system. And West Tech, the manufacturer, said yes, it would handle the manganese and the iron. One of the reasons for the recent pilot program for the green sand filters, and trustee Boyle mentioned last December, the previous commission said that we would have it. In discussions with various people, nobody knew how we were going to afford it. Yeah, we're going to get a green sand filter. Well, a green sand filter is going to run roughly 40 to 50 cents per thousand to put in. And I asked the trustees, is that a price that you can afford?
When did you ask us that?
I'm doing it now. So, that's where we've been, to try to keep, our water is expensive already. And we're trying to keep that cost down. So we asked the management team to look at various aspects. We brought in the green sand filter and did a pilot because with the West Tech filters, there's been finger pointing since day one. That no, we didn't say to handle the manganese. Yes, you did. No, you didn't. Back and forth. We wanted the manufacturer of the green sand filter to be there, prove to us what it can do. And we did that. And we had it tested in several different scenarios. One is to do it without the detention tank. The green sand filters is $1.6 million. A detention tank is $2.6 million. So we had it done without the detention tank. Green sand filters produced and took care of the manganese and the iron. We then asked what else can be done. Recently we had an inspection back in September by EPA, an annual inspection, and John said, this plant was designed for sodium permanganate. Why aren't you injecting it as the oxidant instead of the chlorine that's in that first yellow box up there? So we did bench testing with sodium permanganate. And presently, the manganese leaves the plant in the 0.04 range. The bench testing of the sodium permanganate in 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and 60-minute detention times took the manganese from 0.2 to 0.035. That's better than the plant's producing now. So that was a good sign. With the ionization, the 4 bluish green tanks, that 0.035 would probably be down in the 0.01 range or even less. We are in the process of asking EPA to allow us to inject it for a 10-hour period to see what the West Tech filters do. If the West Tech filters don't have a problem with it, then we want to do a 2-day test, eventually a 2-week test, and see just how the sodium permanganate does. We haven't got the cost figures yet on what it will take to buy the chemicals, reconfigure the plant to pump it into the aeration area. But hopefully it's a whole lot less than 1.6 million. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to come up with the best solution without putting the financial burden back on all of the users.
Well, Terry, I have a question. A couple of weeks ago, I had asked you in our meeting, what you thought what we need to spend on the plant, to get it up and going, or not up and going, but to get the quality where it needs to be. And I believe, I don't think I know when heard it, you said 5 million.
If you do the 1.6 million, 2.6 or 4.2, digging the pipeline to get rid of the buildup of the manganese in the pipeline is 500,000. You're on top of 5 million pretty quick.
Have you guys broken that 5 million down to see how it would impact rates from you guys as far as to the water customers?
Well,
Because I know we're at 710, I believe now.
685.
Well, what's the 710?
That's your
Oh, okay,
number.
so we're at 685.
685, and you would basically be pushing $1 per thousand to go to 5 million over a 20-year time.
You're almost at $8.
And Terry, to back up to Matt's question here, given the debt schedule, it looks like that you're gonna have to increase rates based on debt schedule alone. On top of those increases, we're looking at another $1 per thousand for the $1.6 million or $5 million debt.
The 1.6 million is roughly 30 to 40 cents. The 5 million is right in the dollar range.
But just for the record, you're hoping that 5 million isn't necessary if this other system will work, is that?
If the sodium permanganate drops our manganese levels down to where the green sand filter have it, we're hoping to be able to do that.
So those tests are happening now, Terry? The sodium magnesium test, or when?
We're in the process of submitting the request to EPA to allow us to inject it. Even though the plant was designed for it, since we never injected it, we have to go back and get their approval to inject it.
What's the estimated timeline on that?
Hopefully mid-December we will be injecting it.
Terry, but would you agree though that debt schedule, it looks like it'd be perpetual rate increases based on how that debt structure would be?
The debt structure, the debt goes out to, I believe, 2045. It's structured, there's 4 bonds. And they're so structured that when bond C gets paid off, we start paying more on bond D. When D gets paid off, we pay more on bond B's and so on. The debt structure itself is pretty consistent, within $75,000 to $100,000 difference a year. The intent was that usage would be increasing to help pick up some of that. We're hoping as everything, rates or costs keep going up. So if we can offset that by usage to try to keep costs consistent. There was all types of different scenarios. I know Trustee Kinsey gave me a sheet that he had that showed all types of, growth and this and that, and what the rates was gonna be doing, and the bond debt. We're hoping with Woodward and Kern on board that we've already seen a reduction in utility bills by the way we cycle and run our pumps. We're hoping to see a reduction in chemical costs by the way our utilities, not yours, our Because, the plant runs on a lot of electricity, and we've been able to see by changing how we cycle some pumps, there's been a saving in electricity already. And we're hoping that, as several people know, we've had problems with the well fields and some costly maintenance costs on the wells. We have 10 wells, they run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they will always require maintenance. That's just the nature of the beast. We've always had some cost there. Hopefully, some of the upfront costs will curtail. We're hoping that we can do something with the brine that is now trucked over to Chatham. That's about $185,000 a year. We can change that procedure. So we're looking at all the various avenues on where the 3-year-old plant is, what the future of the 3-year-old plant is. And I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you what the rates are going to be, but I can tell you right now, if you want us to go with the green sand filter, it's going to be in the $1.3 to $1.8 million range until we get the bids in hand. We don't have that cost.
Terry, one of the concerns that I have, and I know I'm sure you've seen the document and all the board members have, I'm sure, is the fact that 3 years into it, we're already at the 2035 projected rate. I mean, how do we get that far off? And what can we do, or the current board members and Woodward and Kern and Dan L, what can we do? I mean, you guys do to lower it. I mean, do to get the rate structure back to where it was projected. I mean, how, if I was that far off in my job, I'd been fired.
I don't know the rate structure set up. I don't know how it was originally established. I don't know the time. I do know, Bill Piffer put in a lot of thought into the very first rate. I was not around whatsoever when it went to $6.85. Those are not easy decisions to make. And to reduce
It may not be easy, but they're not close.
Well, once again, it's what we've got. The cost of the plant is what we've got. We can't go back and say, okay, contractor, give us $5 million back.
Well, I
It's
think
not gonna happen.
what Matt is trying to say here is that we were informed, and that's why I go back to that debt schedule, is we were informed that this is what, we would be charged for water. And we're exceeding the 2045 range. So when I bring up debt schedule, I think I'm looking for a projection, much like we had before, but something that with a little more legs underneath it, if you will, because that thing was so far off, and we have no idea what the bucket's gonna be passed to us in the long term, and that's why we want some understanding of how this rate structure will be going forward.
And I think that's fair too, that the commission provide that to us, because future residents of Chatham will wanna look at that and compare. Because one of the things people do when they move to new areas, what are utilities gonna cost us? And I think that's a good projection for them to see as future citizens, but also for the governing body of that community and of New Berlin to see those, projected costs, and, which I hope are a lot closer than the former ones.
Yeah, as I mentioned, we're trying to cut back on costs where we can as far as the operation of the plant. Trying to project out to 2045, 30 years, what the rate's gonna be, what the growth of Chatham, New Berlin, the in-between is gonna be. It's just like asking trustees, what's your electric rate's gonna be in 5 years, 10 years. We don't have that crystal ball to tell you. Yes, I'm not happy that it's at 685. Not happy at all. And that's one of the reasons I've been reluctant to just automatically come to you and say, okay, we need 1.6 million to put in a green sand filter, and
But
your rate's now gonna be $7.25.
my argument to that is, and I hope this is why we're here, I mean, you know, this is something that's been promised, is the open communication. I think in the last 6 months, our leadership team has done an amazing job to find out the answers, do the research, and not be a reactive community and have forethought. To say, come in here and say, well, I'm asking you now, when we knew, this is something that they would have said, let's figure out some numbers, if this is worth it. Because water quality is key in this community. So, to us, that's very, very important. So, what is the actual cost, but not letting us know and coming in here blindsided and saying, well, it will be this additional, instead of letting them know, because I know you talk to them on a regular basis, because they are busting their butts trying to make sure that our quality's good. Excuse my butt term, but you are. And, I just can't see where, you can say, I didn't know, or I don't, I'm asking you now, and we have to have better communication first. I mean, this is key, so that we can come here and have better answers for our community. We knew we were gonna try to address some problems with them. I think everyone has made it very clear in this community, and if you're not sure, go walk the doors, because that's what I did. And every one of them wants water quality, and that was the number one thing. Cost, yes, but if we can look at numbers and actually have answers, they'll do the work. They're doing the work unbelievably right now. But you gotta communicate with us. You have to.
Nina, you had asked me months ago about what could go in the water. Remember you asked me this? And the problem with water is that, the green sand is a great system for manganese and things like that. The problem with it is the upkeep. The customers that I remember you telling me this, the customers that I have in Buckeye, the water treatment company, they have potassium permanganate systems. Resolves the issue. Those systems are so expensive to run, though, to keep their water quality good. Now, how it was decided way back when doesn't matter, is that green sand is a wonderful solution for this problem. The problem, though, is the upkeep. So as far as the debt schedule, they don't know that, because it's the upkeep as far as keeping the green sand filtration regenerated with potassium permanganate. That's a very, very expensive thing to do. Now, it will resolve the issue. It will. I mean, ask any one of my dozen customers that live in Buckeye, they'll tell you that it resolved the issue.
Well, and I think that's, thank you, and I want to say that I think that's what we're trying to find out is, and I don't think we've gotten a strong answer. I know it was mentioned in the past, nobody wants to own it, but somewhere the green sand filter was mentioned. It didn't come up from somebody's ideas. I mean, I heard it before I was on the board. It was there. Why it wasn't done, and why we're incurring extra costs at this point, because 3 years later, don't tell me that the price hasn't increased, because I live in a different world than most people. So why do we keep waiting, and why aren't we doing the test and finding out the answer and allowing prices to continue to increase as the economy is growing? So that's what I wanna know is how long it's gonna take, what's the timeline? I just feel like we're not getting, I understand things are slow, trust me, I've learned from being part of politics. But we need to make sure that we have a better timeline, like something to give people, some type of communications. That's where I feel like I'm like, we're working on it. Does that make sense?
Just to hit on your point, I think it's having a plan, and it's having a long-term plan for, and to address what Mr. Homeyer said here, it's the upkeep and maintenance. We know what the debt schedule is, we know certain operating costs, but there's not a long-term plan to address combating perpetual rate increases, or a long-term plan for addressing continually to improve water quality. And I think that's why we're all somewhat frustrated with this process.
Chad has a question too.
Here's my biggest problem. And I know you weren't here at the time. I know most of this board wasn't here at the time. Joe and I were the only ones, the mayor. you know, and our, your predecessor, village administrator, one thing that was promised, and we haven't lived up to that promise at all, was our water would be better, if not the same as CWLP, and our price would be the same, if not better than CWLP. And so I want, I mean, our village board promised that, our administration promised that, and we're far from it. You know, the question is, you know, and like I said, like Mark said, how long is it gonna take to get to that point? Because we owe it to them to do what we promised. We owe it to ourselves.
In February, EPA issued a permit for the green sand filter. That wasn't 3 years ago, that was this past February, that permit was issued.
In February?
In February.
Well, what I think is what Nina was saying was it was addressed before 3 years ago. Not that was a permit, but that it was addressed.
It's been designed and permitted. Cost is still unknown until we actually physically bid it. And maybe I'm at fault that I didn't come to the village board and say, or do you wanna just go ahead with this bid? My background as a public servant, most of my career, is to research things and do the best we can with what we've got.
Which I'm okay
Fortunately,
with
we
research,
didn't have.
Gary. I'm fine with research, but give us a timeline of how long that research is going to take.
Well-
And yes, projections are okay. You know what I mean?
As of right now, I said, we had the Mako, Max gave us a price of 1.6 million for the green sand filters. We've asked Woodard to study other options to see what else. Once that's done, hopefully the EPA allows us to do it and do it in December, then we'll be coming back to the village and say, here, for X number of dollars, we can do the sodium permanganate, here's the finished results.
But could you tell us now what steps you would have to go through for the sodium permanganate? I mean, are we gonna have to build an extra tank for it? How does that react the same as if we use the sand filter? Is it a maintenance nightmare? Can Woodward tell us some of that stuff, or?
Well,
if that's a viable option, I'd like to know some of the numbers on that.
well, and that's the reason we're wanting to run the test. Physically put it in the plant. Does the West Tech filters handle it, or is it becoming a maintenance nightmare on the West Tech filters?
I believe that's what you said at the last meeting, the last, South Sangamon County water meeting, that the sodium, whatever it is, would be very hard on the filters, and there would be constant maintenance on the filters. If I'm not mistaken, that's what you said.
Well, it will catch on, when sodium permanganate oxidizes, it becomes a heavier, larger precipitate. And it will hang on the outside of the filters. Now, this is what I've been told, and I may not have it correct. It will hang on the outside of these filters. Presently, we have to use a chemical down the lower part here, chemicals to clean those filters. It's a timely process. So if it will hang up on the outside of the filters, it's quicker, easier to clean the filters. But that's what we're wanting to run this test. Before, and I've heard the boards and various people always pointing fingers at different things. Let's physically run it, see what we've got, what's inside that building, how it handles it. Not just from a theoretical standpoint, but let's physically do it and see what it is. And see how often the filters have to be cleaned. See if it's abrasive to the filters. See, we've got an ammonia tank that is being removed, so we've got another location to put this tank in, but how much piping is it gonna take to get to the aeration tank? These are things we need to know and put a cost to, and come back with the total cost, but.
Terry, do you know, or maybe Dan can answer this, if the plant was designed for that, why didn't we set up and use that from the beginning?
Because as Terry had mentioned earlier, the wells are categorized by Illinois EPA as groundwater, but they're under the influence of surface water. Because of that, you had to have some kind of bacterial, biological protection. So again, I didn't get to the plant until it was about 3 months before it was ready to go online. So a lot of that stuff was prior to me. But I would assume that rather than having the membranes for biological protection and having the green sand filters to remove the iron and manganese became cost prohibitive. And so they checked with the West Tech folks, and they told them, yeah, we can handle the iron and manganese, and you have biological protection all in one. That would be my assumption.
Can't they run that stuff through the sodium permanganate earlier in the process for that, a lot of that stuff to drop out then before it makes it to the microfiltration system?
We attempted that about 2 years ago. We fed potassium permanganate to that small building just north of the well field, about 3/4 of a mile from the plant. But there was enough buildup on the piping from the wells that it was overwhelming the filters as it brought it to the plant. So I had to discontinue that.
Pat, the bench test is showing the 15-minute detention time, 30-minute, 60-minute, would all be the same using sodium permanganate. And we basically have a half-hour detention tank at our present usage. So we're anticipating the majority of this will settle out in the bottom of that tank.
The other question I had is going through this process in the green sand filter. Which do either of those slow the process of water going through the plant down more drastic than the other? If we need 2 million or be able to sell 3 million gallons a day by adding on other customers to drive the price down, can the plant handle that, or are we bottlenecking it by adding 1 or 2 of these devices?
At this point, we think it would be negligible, but that's part of the reason for running the pilot study. Again, you're dealing with 2 different oxidants. It's hypochlorite's the oxidant that's used now. Sodium permanganate's the oxidant we'd be looking at in the future. Bench test showed that, the reaction time's much quicker, and manganese levels after the membranes would be essentially lower than what we're seeing leaving the plant now. But that's bench testing. Again, we'd like to err on the side of nice cross the T's before we would make that recommendation to the commission.
So my question is, if we do go with sodium permanganate, would there be a different chemical reaction that would cause another problem that we're not facing currently?
We don't think so. Again, part of the reason for the pilot study. We talked to the membrane manufacturer. Again, they're not expecting any issues. We tried to research other plants that this is currently employed, and all signs seem that this would be a go. But the pilot test again would help us confirm.
So when can we get possibly financial numbers for sodium permanganate?
After we do the pilot test.
Probably
Right at the first of the year, maybe somewhere around there.
In your opinion, is there any, we talked, or I talked, and I know the rest of the board does, talks to citizens all over our community about the different problems we're having because of this or that, and manganese and iron. Is there a way, from a plant standpoint, operating standpoint, to get those numbers to 0?
No.
So we're always gonna have iron and manganese.
To get the manganese numbers to 0 in the existing process? No.
Would the green sand filter get it to 0?
No.
Would it get it lower?
Sure. Green sand's a very common industry-wide.
Now what about the iron levels? Would they ever go to 0?
They're essentially negligible now.
So what are your projections as far as manganese? Where if we leave it how it is, it stays at 0.5 or 0.05. If we went to the green sand, what would your projection be to lower it to with
Based on the bench testing after the membranes, 0.03, what the ion exchange system would do on top of that. Again, we wouldn't predict that, but again,
to see, because I know at .05, we see a lot of problems. I know I see problems at my house, other people have had problems with theirs, and the storage of the toilets and the, you know, the rustiness and everything in those. At the .01 level, will you still see that?
The concentrations right now for manganese and when you're talking about solids buildup, there's a myriad of factors that can create the solids buildup that people experience in their homes. Some can be caused from the water treatment process. Some can also be caused from distribution systems and the nature of what distribution systems.
Well, and I think our distribution systems have been addressed, and, Pat, you can kind of touch on the things we have done for our distribution system and tests you guys have done, correct?
We have. We flushed our system. We're in the process of setting up that process again. Shane is contracted with the company to come in and vacuum the bottom of our ground storage tank. It appears just from the or from looking in from the top that there's manganese all over the bottom. We assume that's what it is. That tank was just recently completely sandblasted and painted, so I can't imagine that it would be rust in there in, what, less than a year? Yeah. So something is settling in the bottom of that tank. We'll find out when we get it vacuumed out. But after we do that, our plan is to start at our water tower and flush the system from the inside out. We were told that that's the way to do it, that would take care of our problems. And after we did that over in the Willows, we've had no more calls on groundwater or anything else. So I think the process works, and we plan on doing that in the month of November here.
So Pat, when the hydrant flushing was going on in various areas of the community, was that us or was that the fire department, or was it?
The fire department does pressure testing. It disrupts the water in the mains because they're opening a hydrant. There's iron around that hydrant, rust. When you turn around and pressurize that, it just releases rust and stuff that's on those devices, and it comes out in people's houses.
And did they not do like you had talked about going in to out, from the inside to the outside? Did they not?
They work subdivision to subdivision.
Okay.
I've already talked to Chief Schumer and asked him that next spring that I would like for his guys to work with our guys. For one, that we could pressure, or we could do that testing together. That's less water that we're wasting. And secondly, we will give them a list of which order we want them to test those. And our guys will be right there after them then to flush them for the certain amount of time that we need. So I think we'll make the process work a little smoother, and we're planning on doing that twice a year.
So essentially, you know, on one hand, by going subdivision to subdivision, not inside to out, that flushing or that stirring up of the rust or whatever was in those hydrants could have been going further into the system essentially.
Well, it could get in a circular pattern. It could get trapped in a subdivision. The Willows was a perfect example. The water got trapped over in the Willows, and after we got enough calls there, we went over there, and it was over one evening or 2 evenings, I think. Dustin and his crew took care of it, and we haven't had a call over there since then. So.
Excuse me, I don't know if this is a good time to say this or not. This board and other boards are designed and built by people who have all different trades. Myself, I farm. You asked me about water systems 4 or 5 years ago, I had no idea. Now I read more about water and corn, if that's possible, right? Pat, wouldn't it be making somewhat sense to me if I'm flushing a line or I'm flushing a system, right? Wouldn't you start from the start of it and flush it out instead of making it go around the system? And I was in a meeting and I kind of heard that, and it just didn't make sense why that was that way, Pat. And I'm not trying to.
The water gets fed from our above ground tank.
Yeah.
So it's forced down there and forced out to our system.
Yeah.
So if you go the first subdivision off of one of the lines that comes out of the tank, and you turn around and go from hydrant to hydrant, flushing in that direction, you'll
Yeah.
always have clean water behind you,
Sure,
pushing the
moving
dirt
around,
out.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we weren't doing that be full focal or though, and my other question is, I guess to the, well, you're our expert, because we're paying a hell of a lot of money. We have an old system in Chatham, and a new system in Chatham, and people say, God, it's happening in my house, I have an old house, and then other people say, I have a brand new house, it's not happening. I've stood in more people's bathrooms than I care to. My question is the treatment system that we're using now, is it knocking things out of the line that was there from the old system water, new system water, and God, we make a finger point probably from mad at you. No, and that's not what I want to do, but is the system that we have, we produce good water according to EPA, and when I say that to people, they're like, well, yeah, according to EPA, but then I smell the water and see people, and people wonder, is there something that we can do like a plant and flush the system from our plant all the way out? And I don't want people from New Berlin to complain, because they're in my district too, but I'd like to know that we're pushing it that way. Hey, and God, if I dumb this down, it's just not intentional, it's just the way I am. Go. What do I got? You got an hour.
You're asking, is there a way to
Yes.
flush from the plant?
From the plant all the way to the outside of town. I would love to hear a complaint from somebody beyond these people.
There's a transmission line, again, from the water plant to the village of Chatham. Again, I don't, distance-wise, Terry.
20 miles.
20 miles. So there is a force main as part of our responsibility that we are required to flush it along. Village of Chatham had done it prior, and so now that we're on board, we will be flushing that again, similar frequency. So that'll be flushed from Chatham or New Berlin on. Again, those communities' responsibilities for flushing. So again, flushing ideally, it does start at the water source and work its all the way out to the end.
Okay, so out of all the plants that you manage right now, did you have any plants that you began with that had a problem and you said, hey, well, let's work together and flush this together? Or is it or is it a Chatham's responsibility to flush their lines and lead the system in any way?
Again, the commission, I think we've had some dialogues about how to do it as a team. The responsibility gets down to who the owner is. And in this case, again, we work for the commission. We do have communities that we operate the treatment system, the distribution, and again, it's our responsibility. We have to manage both, and so in those cases, we do have flushing programs that are unidirectional. In some cases, we have to involve the water model engineers to ascertain the areas of low flow and some restrictive areas that, again, understand got stagnant water or lower flow, they might require more flushing than others. Distribution systems, as I'm sure the village knows now, they can be their own unique animal.
What is the GPG coming up, ion exchange coming out of? I know you mentioned milliliters, but what is the grain per gallon of ion exchange coming out of? I don't know if you guys are breaking this up. What is the version of that?
I believe if you take the milligrams per liter divided by 17.1, that gives you grams per gallon. It's about 120 on these plants, so divided by 17.1, that would be a number. I don't know that off the top.
Can you tell me?
120 divided by 17.1, 7.018.
So, yeah, see, because according to the American Water Board Association, Severn is considered a modern day particle for 7 GPG, like Springfield is 7 GPG. I've been doing this for 15 years. We have thousands of customers, and Springfield has 7 GPG. Why then, if this is coming out of the plant, 7 GPG, why, when I test Tanny's water, hers is 14? I live in Hurstbourne. I tested someone's water, it was 17. I tested right off of the moment, and it was 10, so I'm kind of confused, so why is the ion exchange coming out at 7, but by the time it comes to the residents' home, again, really simplifying it. I don't care how simple it's planned, but is the ion exchange level that's coming out of the plant, cannot handle the amount of hardness that's coming out, because you have hardness, you have manganese. You know, sodium permanganate is a great regenerant, salt is a great regenerant. But in order for sodium permanganate to remove the manganese, the ion exchange must reduce the hardness to a certain level. Again, simplifying it, this is why I see with our homes that we have systems in. So, is the ion exchange not able to reduce the hardness level? Can anyone tell me that?
Well, it reduces the hardness from, what, 300 something down to 0, but then we bring back in order to get to that 120, the 300. So it's untreated, to bring it in to get the hardness up to 120, which is very similar to Springfield's and the two.
So a simple question is why would it, when it comes to homes, again, this is just on a home level, because when it comes from the plant, I don't care about when it comes from the plant, I care about when it comes from the home. I mean, you know, me testing water all on Chatham, this is what I see. I see people are very frustrated that how the water comes to the point of distribution, I can't do anything about. I can do something about it when it comes to my home. So why again, when at least it's when it comes to my home, it's so, I mean, it's twice the amount of when it leaves the plant, handy zone. Why would it be like that? You know that?
I guess at this point, what I can tell you is caveats, if I have to read, if you've got time to come by, we can walk through all the data. Again, if it requires some additional analysis out in the system, it might be something we should work with the commission to see if we can answer your question. I don't know that we can answer that.
Mr. Hallmark, Mr. Hallmark, how are you testing the water?
Hi, testing water?
Yeah, the hard.
Hardness test kits?
Like your own test kit?
Lamont?
We use a lab EPA approved, and you can look at all my research. Every time it's been 117 to 120 milligrams a liter across the board. I've never seen it jump one time. I have a whole book, you're welcome to look at it if you want.
Yeah, I mean, we use testing kits for Lamont.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
yeah, I can just.
I think Julie's seen most of this information, she can probably confirm that.
I think maybe the variable, testing that we've seen has just been because of inconsistencies of the plant. Now, I think it's more consistent. I don't think the last several months have been so sporadic. But I think in the past, there have been so many, changes and things that we just didn't know about. And I think that was the main problem. We were having issues and we didn't really know why. I think maybe, bypass rates, backflush rates, chemical feed rates, those have all varied in the past. And it's given us variable results throughout the town.
You will not, and not to put you on the spot, I know we talked the other day about trying to understand the nature of the complaints. Are they more or less, or things that you hear to get to improve? And I guess, part of the message is there is improvement, or at least there seems complaints are less, water quality has seemed to be moving in the right direction. Yes, part of us trying to understand the nature of the complaints. It seems that things are moving in the right direction, so I don't know that it's all, not going the wrong direction.
It has been more consistent, and that's what we would expect from a groundwater plant. Something I wanted to touch on a minute ago, though, when you were talking about the new pilot testing for the sodium permanganate, it is going to be aggressive on your membranes. So you're going to have, it's the same as what you're feeding, not the same, but you're going to have to remove it. It's going to be aggressive, it's going to plug the membranes. So there's going to have to be some sort of mechanism in between. You can't just feed a chemical and expect the membranes to catch it all. It's going to be
And that's, once again, we'll do a pilot test and see what's happening. But, Nina, back to your original comment, question. Hopefully, if we get EPA's approval and in December, we can do the pilot. January or so, I hope to bring to the citizens, to the board, here's the pros and cons of the different things that we've tried, and bring to you the cost, and bring to you the final results. Hopefully after Dustin and Shane and Pat get the flushing done, we can help do some more testing and see what is happening now afterwards. And if there's something, it's kind of hard to make changes at the plant right now when the end result is so sporadic. It's every which way. So once we get the system flushed out and that becomes a non-point, now maybe there is something that can happen at the plant. But people I've talked to, if we either go with the iron or the green sand filter or with the sodium permanganate, we should see a big difference in the manganese levels. And hopefully then there won't be any settling out of the manganese, or if there is, it's going to be a whole lot less of it.
And you're probably going to answer that question, Terry, or you guys. So when complaints started coming in about 2013, what steps were taking of testing and additional costs, or suggestions were made at that time since those complaints started coming in from our citizens? I mean, I know we've done steps since you guys been on and Terry's been on, but prior to that, and I don't think you'd be able to answer this, Terry, some of you seniors, who've been there, can answer that. What steps did we take to start to test those problems? And or what were our options given to improve them, or what did we do to improve them? And that's just, this might have been repeated already, but since I'm newer to all this, I would kind of like that response.
I can make that. One point that came up earlier is the water sources did change. Originally from Springfield, it's a lime softened water source. This is groundwater, and again, by nature, the changes in the source of water, there are scales or lime deposits that build up from the pipes. And over time, when you change the sources, there will be some, presumably some stripping. You brought out a piece of pipe at the plant the other day that shows there is not any scale on the pipe. And again, so when that happened, we were not here, but trying to help piece together some of the challenges or.
And when did that happen? When did we know about that line problem?
What's that?
I mean, you wouldn't know that, but when did we know about the line problem, Dan?
Well, real quick history here. Back when the plant first went online, there was no dedicated line to Loami. And so you may recall that Springfield was putting water into the reservoir to make up for the water that Loami was using during the day. So that process took place for about a year.
So from 2012 to 2013?
Yeah, somewhere around there in middle of 2013. When Springfield stopped putting water in the ground reservoir, and it was strictly South Sangamon's issue. And then when I got calls out of the plant about some of these problems, well, that was one of the elements that we could eliminate from that factor. Now, out of Springfield, injecting water that they have, they're doing chloramines, and we're doing free chlorine, and the different characteristics of the water. So it was at that point that I approached the commission to talk to them about some of these issues, like the levels of manganese in the water. I mean, the plant from the very first day, it does an excellent job of removing iron. And so the water leaving the plant has very little iron in it, almost undetectable. But yet we have iron problems in the distribution system. And so those are some of the things.
So when you brought that to them, what did they say? Like,
well, essentially that's when go ahead.
Yes, I was on the commission before this thing was built. Quite honestly, I remember being in Burke Ashford's office, making the comment, "Are you sure we're going down the right trail?" And the direction was yes. So we went with that. The system that we have, when you're talking about the treatment of that, that Dan would bring things to us, and then we would contact, some EPA most times, is that correct, Dan? And then the EPA would give us some direction, and quite honestly, we were running the show without a captain, kind of in a way, we had a guy that was running the plant, but when it came to that direction stuff, I mean, we're not, gosh, I'm not that skilled, I mean, my wife's a good girl, yeah, so we said, we gotta get somebody in here, and that's where we began kind of looking at, who to hire, and where to hire, and there was lots of people that were trying to like load the hit us, but throwing money at things doesn't fix things. And gosh, someday I wish to write a 20-page book on how not to build a water plant.
So I'm confused, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm confused, okay, so 2013, we're looking at, we knew the problems were there, low magnesium and high iron. At that point, that was addressed with the Water Commission. The Water Commission, the middle of 2013, said what?
So, after Springfield started putting water in the tank, okay, and these problems with white scale, that kind of thing persisted, yeah. Okay, so I engaged with a company called Water Solutions Unlimited and asked them to come in, and they came out and took some samples of the distribution system, and they were trying to address specifically corrosion, okay, and what was going on out there. And basically what they're telling me, what they were telling me back then is that with the water that you guys have out there, you need to feed about a 50-50 poly ortho blend in order to keep your corrosion rates basically, where they should be.
We did that?
Yes, and we did that back then. Okay, so we engaged with Water Solutions. They said, one thing we could do first is we could feed a chemical to help try and clean out, the insides of the main from Chatham. And so we fed that chemical for 3-4 months or so, something like that. And then once we were done with that, we went back to a maintenance dose of this 50-50 poly blend. And I think that's when, Dustin experienced a lot of complaints about white scale, that kind of thing. And then I found out that, well, if you cleaned your water heater, that, sometimes that took care of that issue. And I think what happened is when we cleaned the insides of the mains, it actually, some of
that was
that
like
stuff.
a year later, but that was a year later when we started that step, because that's when I was running. So we still had a whole year that we didn't do anything else?
No, well, that's, and then sort of, I don't know what time when that started. We'd have to have, I'd have to ask Max for that. But that's when they started engineering on the green sand filters.
I have a question.
I've been trying to ask this question for a long time, and I would like an answer. Somebody designed this system, correct? And who did the design of the system and the specifications for installation of the system? Who did that? Anybody know?
Donahue out of Chatham.
Okay, and what was his responsibility as far as coming back to check this system when it went online and say, this system's working exactly as I designed? Did he do that? Not to your knowledge. So we hire an engineer, we hire somebody to do the specifications, we build the system, and now it feels like, no offense, well, it's kind of up to the guy who's down there. What do you feel like trying today? Let's call this company, let's call that. Why wouldn't we call in the engineering firm that designed this? Because if there is a problem that requires sand filters to be added or not added, that should be on the engineering company to come back and explain.
And I think the engineering company did.
Yes.
When? Did recommend the green sand filtration.
Well, then why didn't we do it?
The commission.
Who is it? That's the thing. It sounds like everybody up there, no offense, I know you're all trying, everybody's going like this. It's not me, I wasn't there, no, I didn't have anything to do with it. Somebody, I don't care, we're at the point now where people have water. You're affecting the value of our homes. We start getting water that's 2 and 3 times more expensive than we have right now, and we're gonna have a serious problem even trying to sell our homes. So you guys have to get it together, and you have to quit pointing fingers, and you have to get somebody who's going to get the expertise. And no offense to the company that we hired, but do they have the expertise to develop a scope of work and design an entire system? If they do, fine.
It isn't going to double our water bill.
Yes.
I'm a retiree. I lived down here 2 years, I've never seen it. My water bill is more than double what I was paying before. And now you're talking about it escalating, and it's me, I take one shower, 3 loads of laundry probably a week, I run my dishwasher once a week. What about the families here? I don't know how they're dealing with it. And you go around town, people say, oh, where are you from? I say, Chatham. Oh, yeah, you have a water problem.
Exactly right.
And running on, I don't know, maybe I missed it. I've only lived out here in Chatham for 28 years, so maybe I slept for 5 years and didn't hear it. But when did this come up for a public vote? That we wanted you to get rid of sprinklers. What was the reason we really did it, guys? You want to just say that? Ego. That's right, it was ego. Some people didn't want to deal with Springfield anymore, and you know what? We're leaving. We are your company, obviously did not have the expertise on our board. We didn't have the expertise in the people that were here. Let's face it, most of us didn't even know who was on the board. I could care less who was on the board. Because as long as I got my utilities and my street was plowed, and if I had an emergency, somebody came, I was happy. Well, now, you're really killing me. Because I get a bill, I go from a highest bill of water of $60, and 3 months ago, I got a bill of $300 for 1 month. And when I called, they said, well, you must have filled your swimming pool. Gee, I don't have one. Well, you must have been watering your grass. Well, come on out, because it's as brown as anything around here. And all I get is an offer, well, we're going to guess what your water usage is. And then we're going to give you a one-time credit. It sounds like let's make a deal. We're going to give you a one-time credit. We're going to take half off the difference between what you should get. I said, what are you talking about? Come on, read my meter. There's got to be something wrong. Okay, it's not just me. It's just please, you guys, hire somebody that knows.
Are we in a no-win situation? Either we spend $5 million and we can't afford the water, or we keep the water we have, which is disgusting. Is there a no-win? There's no way that we're going to.
And I agree 100%. I mean, that's why I'm up here. I mean, I ran because nobody had answers, nobody knew what was going on. The water quality wasn't good. It affected, the people that were in the business, in my business. So I get it. That's why I'm up here. And that's why we're trying to work through it. That's why we hired a new law firm that's helping us in trying to get answers. Yes, they did a great job setting this up so that our taxes are bonded to this. I wish they didn't, but they did.
And I know they mean it, and I know you're trying, and I know other people are trying, but we just have to get to the point where we do not.
That's why we're here.
It's ridiculous for somebody to say, well, I started and I got a permit last February, and I'm gonna get that report for you. I'm gonna try and do that by January or February. Well, who be at that rate? I'm gonna be past Social Security and dead before this is ever solved.
Well, and I agree. That's why we're here. We need to keep this going, exactly like Penny said. This is not a one-answer meeting. And this is needed not only for us, hopefully for the Sangamon Water Commission. We want to see them communicate with us. We would love to own the water company and have more control over it and be able to make more answers. I would love to do all those things, but I can't.
Well,
because
you have to decide who's going to take charge on this, because
right.
We cannot have, they're obviously adversarial to you. They obviously are
right.
Very defensive. So at this point, we need a third party, somebody to come in who's got the expertise, who can review what's going on and give us a path.
What we can do, and that's what we can do, and I think you guys, one person, if you haven't met her, Jewel has done an amazing job. She would sit down with any of you guys and talk with you. She is basically a part of my brain too, because I'm like, what are they talking about with water, chemicals, when it comes to that. But she has done a great job, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, she is comfortable with the current company we have. They've only been in 5 months, and that's what we need to focus on, and we're seeing a little improvement. And I get it.
But they're not, they should have taken responsibility to get the testing done and given us results. At least give us a game plan of how long it's going to take and what are the projected costs for them to do the testing. And we're not hearing that. I'm not hearing that tonight.
I had the same building 11 months ago asking the same questions. Yeah. And we're here again.
Speaking as someone who's kind of been along on this journey since about 2006, with Jewel, you know, and questioning the water systems and different ideas. You know, that's why, like Nina said, that's why I'm up here too. You know, I was one of two trustees on the current board that was on the board at the time that we went through this change. And you know, at that time, we had two roads to take. One road was to stay where we were, to have water that I thought was pretty good, and, you know, it was all right for a fraction, or go to a new unknown. You know, go to a system that had a projected rate of, you know, 685 and 2045, unknowing that we'd get there in 3 years. But now, you know, and like I said, I've been on the board from 09 to 13, and I fought it, and I tried to work with CWLP when we were still with them, tried to stay with them, and it just didn't work out. And now, as we go forward, you know, the thing that's important to me is, like I said, the promise that, you know, I voted against the water plant and the steps. But my promise, because I was on that board, is to work towards that better quality and that better, if not same price, that the board did promise
We're not
years
moving
ago.
forward. We're not moving forward.
Yeah.
So don't
I understand what you're saying, but you gotta have somebody that can dedicate all their time, and they also have to have the expertise. I think you gotta go back to the people that designed the system and ask them, what is the effect of us eliminating green filters? What if we, they're the ones that should know the answers to that, they designed the system.
And that's something, Terry Burke is the Chatham representative. He can help you, correct, Terry? I mean, communicating with these answers, or, I mean, and that's what, I'm not like, let's not go at, but, you know, he has done something, he brought it into a company, that's something we need to make sure that we realize.
You're not asking somebody to come in and fix a Cadillac, and you're bringing in the Hyundai repairman.
Well, and that's why I'm going to try to get the timeline as well.
3 years old.
Well, and just so everybody's clear, and this is why the village of Chatham is put in such a terrible situation with this water plant. The South Sangamon Water Commission is a totally separate government entity. We cannot control or force them to do anything other than bringing them to meetings and talking about these things and trying to hash out some differences and to get some answers. So we are really put over a barrel here in the sense that we have no control over this. And it was set up that way, and that's,
Yes,
to me, the most frustrating part about this.
and we're paying millions for something we will never own, and there's something illegal about that and wrong.
Yeah, well, Washington's become 4 times higher. I live in Chatham since 1917. I was paying $50 a month. Now I'm paying $200 a month.
Yeah,
Just keep the water turned off.
it's either bad water
Bad water.
So you had mentioned that the original engineering firm that came in said that originally that should have a green sand filter, is that correct?
Somebody.
Yes, that was a suggestion.
Okay, so that was a suggestion, okay, and it's not in there. Why can't we just put it in there and incur the cost, and then the homeowners will know what the upkeep is, what our costs will be, because when someone moves in this community, they wanna know what their utilities will be. And so we can say, okay, this is what your X utility will be for water, then they can absorb that, and people will know that. So what would it take, not to go backwards and say that this is what should have happened, but okay, this is what should have happened, should have had green sand filter, right? That was recommended. So why don't we, so that was the original engineer that said it, so why don't we put it in, absorb the cost, because we're paying for that cost, is that correct? Okay, so we're gonna pay for that, and Milwaukee's affected by that, and Berlin's affected by that. Well, so we're still was affected by it.
Just New Berlin.
So New Berlin would be affected by it, and we would. So why don't we put it in? Who makes the decision for us to put it in? Is it you or the village? Who makes the decision?
They're their own governing body over the water.
So if we just ask you to put it in, you can do it?
The final decision is South Sangamon's Water Commission to make that call.
So if we ask you today to do this, would you do it?
When I was asked to serve on the commission, We were already at 685, and I think that's outrageous. Most of that goes towards debt service, the overall cost of the project, and that's what it is. We can't really do much about that. But we can do the way we operate and the cost of operation. It's less than $2 a thousand. The rest of the 685 is basic debt service. But from a taxpayer's view, I wanted to make sure everything was looked at first, instead of just going and putting in the green sand filter. So we've looked at these other tests. If the sodium permanganate can get us the same finished results at a lower price and lower maintenance, then that's a win-win. If not, we'll go back to the green sand filter.
But the original engineering firm, they would have looked at that, and they also looked at green sand, and they recommended a green sand.
Yes.
So if we asked you today, say it costs $20 million, whatever, to put it in, and we said, okay, Sangamon County, go ahead and put it in. We'll pay for it because we want our water to be good. We don't want these problems in my homes anymore. So would you do it?
Yes, if the trustees are willing to take the water, I will make the recommendation to South Sangamon. I'm only one of 3 votes, but I would make that recommendation. Hopefully in January or February, we'll have the results of this other sodium permanganate, and we'll be in a position to say, yes, let's move forward, let's not. You'll keep telling us we need more detention. Well, that's got a price tag on itself. So, the green sand filter was originally suggested by Donahue. Due to the fact that we're under surface, influence of surface water, we had to have the microfilters and keep the cost down. I assume, I wasn't there, I assume the commission and the designer says, well, we can still get the same results with the microfilters. We refer to them as West Tech, that's the brand name. The West Tech filters can get us there without putting in the green sand filter. Well, back to the finger point. West Tech says, no, we didn't tell you that, and say, yes, here it's in a letter, back and forth and back and forth. But, and I've apologized to the women that was at our last meeting. I wish we had the solution before now, but I wanna make sure that we looked at all the gamuts and looked at all the options and looked at the cost and made that decision based upon all the facts, not just, well, somebody says we need this.
What's the precaution of shutting down the plant and calling on the bottom, going back to city water?
New Berlin wouldn't have water.
Well, then
New Berlin wouldn't have water.
If the bonds are double barrel bonds, which means you are paid by usage or by taxes. So, you know, that's not the intent of the commission to ever put the burden on taxes.
So Gary, wasn't the commission, I mean, if it was recommended a green sand filter up front, who then said, we're not doing this?
It was members of the commission, and I was one
I
of the
believe it
members.
was the state, again, because it's under the influence, and they said that you have to have a membrane to remove viruses. Again, we weren't the design firm, but the biological removal, that is when they switched, the design firm switched from the green sand to the membrane, I believe.
But, you know, and even going back further to the root of the problem, I mean, from the commission standpoint, were you guys presented with studies? I mean, obviously you knew you were going from a groundwater source, or from a surface water source to a groundwater source. I mean, didn't you guys, and with all the money spent, weren't there studies or consultants that would have came in, or they came in and presented you guys with, here's our study of what the potential impact of this is gonna be ahead of time, before you decided to do anything?
I can't speak of
I
that.
think that was directed towards Craig, who was on there.
Yes, I was gonna say that, yes, I was on the commission at the beginning. When we first began, this, a lot of stuff changed, and real quick, the first thing I noticed changes, we used to go to EPA meetings, and then the Open Meetings Act became more of an issue. So 2 members of the commission wasn't able to go to meetings. So I believe the chairman of I believe the chairman should go to those meetings, and I also believe that Chatham should be the one at that table because they're paying the most for it, right? I would go to meetings, I would sit in the lobby at EPA. Matter of fact, we had a meeting not too long ago, and according to laws and according to legal, and they try to keep us from being lawsuited, or, gosh, I'm in a lawsuit, I sat in the lobby that day too. And there was things that were done with, and I will say this, Delacorte in front of me. It's tough for me to say that. But, I really think that there was sick decisions made, and we can't change those decisions. And before you leave, I want to say, it's not Chatham against us, but hell, God, I talk to those guys once in a while. Matter of fact, I talked to Matt here this morning. I need a guy, and he's small. Anyway.
Could you answer the question that we asked?
The question, myself and 3 other members, a member from New Berlin, and Del McCord, and myself.
Okay, and who made the decision that you didn't meet, on what basis did you make that decision?
EPA gave us my understanding, and I'd have to go through all my piles of meetings and notes, was that there was direction from EPA that this would work or this would work.
Okay, could you bring those notes? That would be really interesting to see.
I would love to find them, but please, if I can't find them, it's not because I just don't have it.
It's a pretty significant change. If you can't find that, and it's now cost us, was it gonna cost us 1.6 million when they did it initially?
I don't believe so.
Yeah.
So this is a big oops.
Yeah.
Yes. And somebody usually has liability for oops.
It's my understanding, and Ray's, the reason from the consultant that I spoke to, that the reason the green sand filter was not used was because there had to be 12 months of testing. And so with this system, it only required 3 months of testing. So the decision was made to get away from Springfield. They went with this system instead of the green sand filter. Now, I got that from one of the original consultants that worked on this.
And being on board with the fact that that's correct. It was 12 months or
Something about that.
Wouldn't you, looking at the structure of how this was going to work and who was going to pay the freight for it, why would you slap all that money on one community to be responsible for it, and they will never own it at the end of the payment schedule? I don't understand why you would do that. And unless Mr. McCord was paying your mortgage or buying your groceries, I don't know why he had so much influence.
I rely on the chairman form of government. I believe in the chairman form of government. I don't believe that Dell meant to create this meeting here tonight. And I'm not going to speak for the man. Myself, we are an oversight. We were presented things by the engineers. We were presented things by people that were the people who designed that plant. And to the best of my knowledge and the best of my ability, I made what I thought were good decisions. And what can I?
The money situations forced on us, you didn't think that was
Of course I did. Of course I did, but we were told that we were told that the water was only gonna cost this amount. And so, ma'am,
But Mr. Hall.
yes, sir.
Respectfully, like I said, things go back to the root of the problem, okay? You were on the commission at the time. The root of the problem and why the rates have to be structured so high is because of the cost of the construction of the plant.
Right.
Did you not see all those change orders coming, that cost continuing to jump from X dollar to XX dollar to XXX dollar? And you knew that it was becoming to the point where you know, it was gonna be unfeasible for the village and for the consumers, then why didn't we just cut it off? Isn't it better to cut, I mean, an investment off, you know, and lose $3 million, you know, what the initial study was, rather than go $55 million in and be responsible for it. You know,
And what happens if you never get good water? And we're paying for it, and we never get it? That's a possibility too.
Or sale sign on it.
And we're already losing people. There are tons of for sale signs out there, and this is winter time. Imagine what it's gonna be like in the spring.
And I'll say that, and Craig, and to back on what Kenny was saying, we had that plan, we were 3 million, and we had the opportunity, to go further, or we could have stopped and moved back to Springfield. Isn't that right?
I believe so, but the
So what made
trustees
you
voted.
guys decide, like Kenny said, to continue to go forward, knowing, again, that the costs are going up? And, you know, you have a sure thing, the water's good, the price is not bad, or a project where the costs are going up and up and up. What made you guys as a board to go with the project that costs up and up and up? It was going to be instantly, so, into the umpteen millions, and not stay with what we knew was good, and a good price, and what we knew was there.
Me, myself, I was taking the view that what was good for the county. And I think building water is good for the county. I read water magazines. Building water is good for communities. Not thinking further down the road is not good. My thing is the $3 million. Who said $3 million was gonna build this water plant?
That was the money spent to do the study.
Yeah, that was the study.
The pre-planning phase.
Oh.
You had the opportunity to turn and
That's an
say,
easy
no, we're
one.
not gonna do this.
Absolutely. The trustee from Chatham was given under the direction of you guys.
Well, the other five, but yes.
Well, no, I mean you, but.
Yeah, the other five, not.
Oh, the other, oh, that's right, you voted no. But no, that's what was happening there, and so they gave that direction.
Well, because we were given it was told to us that we'd gone too far, and that we should continue. And so,
Which makes no
and
sense.
Joe James actually spent the 3 million, now we're gonna get into 30, 40, 50, and 3 million at the time was not too bad a thing, and we weren't given proper information at the time.
Thank you, though.
So, and I thank you, Craig, and, you've been to our meetings. Exactly.
You are the most honest person.
I'm the most unelected person that ever reached office. I don't trust you either, she.
What's that, Trustee Boyd, if I could just, jump in here, we're coming close to the hour of 8 o'clock, what'd you say? I don't drink, so. When we asked the commission to join us in this meeting, and I was certainly part of setting this up, one of the things we said we focus on are what are the solutions moving forward? And I think it's been helpful to maybe get some of this background out. I know the commission has been working with us on providing a lot of documentation, trying to put that together and answer some of the questions. I'm sure if there are other questions about some of the history, we can submit those to the commission and they might help us answer those. But one of the things we said was we're not gonna, try to put them on the spot for some answers tonight. But I think there has been some good dialogue on what's going on.
Jeff, if I could say one thing, one of the important things, one of the issues that people have a problem with is the sheer cost and what they're paying out of their pocket. I don't think that's an on-the-spot question to ask any of the water commission trustees, because it's an issue that they know, that they projected. And, it's an issue that everybody here and everybody in the village of Chatham and New Berlin deserve to know. And so I don't think that's an on-the-spot.
And we might just have to give them some time to come up with that.
I mean, it gets back, too, Matt, off of what you're talking about,
Now, let's give them 3 more years.
The quality issue is one component, but the issue, in terms of, besides quality that I know all these guys get time and time again, is how are we going to alleviate the costs on our customers? How? I mean, you know, from a commission standpoint, I mean, it starts with you guys with your wholesale rate.
They don't care, so they're not.
Well, you know, you say it's too high, but how are we gonna get it down? And, you know, in my view, this was sold as, we need to have our own water so that we can continue to annex.
And control our own destiny.
Control our own destiny. But the thing about it is this is almost, you know, turned around and backfired on us because, you know, it's a pipe dream. It really is a pipe dream that we're gonna continue to be able to bring on more customers onto this system. And, you know, like you said, we're at a dead end. Everyone up there said it.
Our customers in, we have people moving out.
Because it's gonna backfire, because people are not gonna come to Chatham and pay $500 utility bills. So how's it gonna continue to grow? How are we gonna get new customers? Let's stop beating the dead horse and stop trying to beat around the bush. We're here, this is what we got, we're gonna pay for it as long as you live here. And if you want it better, you're gonna pay more. Sorry.
Are we getting good quality of water? In spite of the cost.
In spite of the cost.
Can I just ask one thing of you guys? Nina, thank you, I can tell that you're really trying to get not just talk going, but answers here. And that's why I asked, you know, when I was in meetings before that I was involved in, the goal was to get to the end of the meeting with action items and dates. And can we get that from this meeting? Can we have some definite written down action items saying, I, as a board member, will provide you with this by this date. I, as a member of Sangamon Water, whatever it takes, specific. I'm so sick of there not being specifics of us talking around and talking about and re-talking about and regurgitate. If this was an owl pellet thing, we'd be here examining for weeks and months. Can we quit just cracking over the same stuff and get some finalization on this? Let's not talk about, I can tell, Terry, that you were trying to do some stuff. It sounds to me like Woodward, I don't know, but it sounds like we're moving in some directions there with things. But we're still just talking about it. I see some action that started, but let's make sure that when they say, we're looking at this and it should be done by then, someone should be holding up and going, hey, how's that coming along? Not waiting until a month after something doesn't happen and then saying whatever happened with that. It seems to me like that's what we're getting a lot of. Can we please just try to put some dates and times and action points to work here? That's all. You know, it all comes down to one thing. We can't go back on the cost. We know that. But every single person in this room still wants water that they can drink and bathe. I don't want scars up and down my body from scratching. I want my hair to shine again. I want to be able to drink water. I want to be able to wash my car. I want to be able to flush my toilet and not be embarrassed when people walk into my bathroom. I just want, you know, to not have to buy new appliances over and over and over. But you know what? I did complain 3 months after the water plant went online. For months I heard, it's only you, it's not happening. Luckily, we got involved with some very good people within our own village who started taking it seriously. Dustin was at my house several times getting water things. But you know what? They'll say my water's good. It says my water's good.
Does the water stop your house?
Oh, my water is crap. It smells bad, it tastes bad, it looks bad, it is bad. You can't wash your car, you can't wash your dishes. I don't care what a water report says. That's not going in my body. You guys have to fix it. It's cost us, we paid for it. Please make it right. Just give me water. Right now, our plan is, within 2 years, our kids are out of college. We right now left a project that we're working at homes where we are remodeling and doing some things so we can sell our house in 2 years and get the hell out of Chatham because I can't pay half of my cost of mortgage for utility bills and still go out and buy bottled water and bag bags. Yes. Can't do it. Doesn't matter how much I love Chatham.
And I want to piggyback on exactly what you said, and that's what I would like to get a timeline down, and that's, I feel like we need to have those answers, and that's why I was walking through everything, to figure out if the tests have already been done. Have you looked into that, Mark, as those tests have been done from Donahue when they suggested that? Can you use that? Or you don't feel strong with those tests? You know, if those tests have been done and recommended by Donahue when they installed it, are we able to use those tests? Or why do you feel like we need to test or continue to do that? If it is to, you guys think that there's a strong possibility that the prior test could save us money, and you believe in that, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with making sure we're right, because we have not done that in the past, and that is how we've incurred these costs continuously. So to say, we do want a timeline, but I don't expect an answer today, but I do expect an answer in 6 months. And I know that seems like a long time with everything we've had, but we've just had this group hired on, and we have to make sure we're right. I don't wanna spend another $3 million and you come back to me and say, why'd you spend $3 million? You didn't run the test.
Hey, Nina, just ask you, how much are we paying for the new company?
Well, that's included in the cost.
It's not us. No, it's us we're paying for it. No, it's us we're paying for it, and it's, I can look up the number, if you want to.
Their contract is $930,000 a year, and that takes care of insurance, utilities, chemicals, hauling, brine, all of that, and salaries for their employees. It's about $84,000 above what we did, and we had just the one employee, but we also got in a problem. Dan had some family medical, couldn't be at the plant, and I made several phone calls to the other outlying places, and they, oh, we send you a person for a half a day. The plant has to run with continuity. So we reached out, and Woodard came in, sent a guy out in from the East Coast, and he was here for 7 days with us. 24 hours a day, he actually stayed at the plant, and he got us through all of this. That's when we realized we needed to find some debt. You can't run a $55 million plant with one person.
I don't know why you didn't figure that out before. Why did it take 3 years to figure out that one person, God love Dan for being there. Why did it take 3 years?
The commission originally had Kern Gardner hired, and they would send out additional staff to take care of the plant. It wasn't just one man. But then the gentleman who left, Kern Gardner, left them shorthanded from a plant operator standpoint. So Dan stayed on with South Sangamon. He was employed with Kern Gardner when he first hit the buttons at the plant. Kern Gardner actually had the management contract, which is considerably more than what we were paying these guys, because they have all the costs, they have everything. So they want to get the utility bills down, they want to get the chemical costs down and stuff. That's all part of their thing. Kern Gardner only furnished the manpower, we still had all the other costs. So, having the debt, just like last night, we lost a hardware problem that failed at 6 o'clock last night. They had people on the phone working on the computers in a matter of hours. If it was back to one man, Dan may still be trying to find somebody to work on those computers. They've got the depth. They need expertise in chemistry, whatever. They've got the depth, and they brought it. They showed it to us. And that's the reason we've asked them, make sure we look at everything and make sure that the net cost that we spend is the right cost.
You still didn't answer my question. Why did it take you 3 years to bring somebody like that, knowing you knew after the first year or the first year and a half, there was serious problems with the water people were getting here in Chatham? People knew that. The board, the commission knew it. Dell knew it. Everybody complained about it. We complained about it at the village, but nothing was ever done. I guess, I don't know why it took 3 years for the commission to bring somebody on.
Have you budgeted their $930,000 a year into the charges for water that we are paying? Is that budgeted already?
Yes. In order to process water is $1.2 million a year.
Okay, so my question.
In short, yes. Their funding comes from the citizens of the village of Chatham.
Their money comes from Chatham and New Brunswick. Yeah. So Chatham pays them, New Brunswick.
So expect a raise. I mean, not anything against you guys, I'm get us some answers with dancing around like a friggin' politician. I'm tired of that. Just keep, if you don't know, say, I don't know. I'll find out. But be honest, I don't know. Because some of these trustees that have been on that board, whether you voted or not, they're awful darn quiet up there. But I'd like to start pointing the finger and saying, speak up, you were part of it. So I'm gonna be really nice, because I'm only allowed so many minutes at meetings.
Interruption for a minute, I know that we had to be out here at 8 o'clock. I know that the village board, is in favor of continuing these type of discussions and opening the dialogue with the commission, and we look forward to, future meeting as such, if, the water commission is willing as well, but, going forward, I think there'll be a more constructive dialogue, and, we'll start understanding a little more about some of the issues, you guys are facing, and some of the challenges that, we face as well, so, we look forward to, future meetings as well.
Like I said, if we can't nail down an exact date, I would at least like to nail down some kind of a time frame for when the board will meet again.
January.
You know, and that's, you know, some of it's on these guys because they need time to.
Can we try to set a January date? 2 months?
January's fine, whenever.
Yeah, Sheriff, can we work on a date? I wanna personally thank, and I know both boards do, for everyone coming tonight and expressing your thoughts and issues and problems that you may or may not have. Thank you for all the